Welcome to episode 12 of the Communication Error podcast, the community patch notes episode of Does Nostalgia Ruin Gaming? I'm your host, John Ebo, and with me today is Cheesy, as always. How you doing?
What's going on, cheese curds?
And we got a special guest, AJ from Watch Redirect. Is that correct?
Redirect. Watch Redirect's all our socials.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
And happy to have you.
Thanks.
Before we get into it, maybe introduce yourself. What type of content do you make?
Hi, hello. I am AJ. I make Nintendo-centric video essays mostly. I also stream. I used to have a podcast. I have a podcast, but it's just a Patreon podcast now. So like, you got to get in deep before I would suggest you go to that one. But yeah, we just mostly try to make videos that are like centered around like more evergreen stuff, but stuff that people are talking about and give perspective to that most gaming outlets don't try to do. Because I feel like a lot of gaming outlets just like add to the echo chamber, and we try to add like a bit of like perspective. Like, is this really the way that you feel like it is, or do we need to take a step back and analyze it for what it is with a wider lens?
Do you want to talk a little bit about your podcast and just how you recently finished your final episode and what was the reasoning behind that?
Sure, we can do that. I had a podcast. It was called Directly to You, a Nintendo news podcast. It was fun. It was mostly something that I did before I started streaming because I wanted to be able to like more directly engage with our community, because the types of videos that I make don't really allow for that in the way that I would want. It was initially supposed to be a thing that was just an easy additive thing, but it became the thing that was taking all the time and effort from me and my co-host, Parker. And it just wasn't worth that kind of upkeep, because it's not with YouTube's policy changing on monetization. It could have been monetized now, but by the time that we made the decision, it wasn't even monetized. So it was like, we're spending all our time and effort on something that's making us no money and taking away from the thing that makes us the money. So that's why we had it.
Well, we're brand new.
That's fair.
Hopefully, well, this might be the last one because Cheesy's not paying me anymore to be on here. He cut me off.
Yeah, little does he know I was never paying him.
Oh no.
But speaking of on our way to monetization, we're not close yet, but we did hit 100 subscribers on YouTube.
Nice.
So thank you to everybody that has subscribed already, and definitely subscribe if you haven't. I think the monetization policy now is 500 subscribers and 3,000 watch hours.
Yeah, something like that.
So that's the next goal. So let's get to 500, and I think we could, if people keep getting annoyed about my Mario Kart Wii short, maybe we'll get to 3 million short views. Probably not.
See, that's the power up, is being able to do it through shorts.
Yeah.
Man.
We're trying.
Yeah. But yeah, this is episode 12. And I guess we'll start off. We got a brand new review. Do you have it pulled up, Cheesy, or no?
Yeah, I got you. So our anytime that you leave a review, we will read it on the show. So thank you to T. Cameron T, who said, I'm a big Nintendo/video game fan, and I was looking for a good podcast to play while I work. This was just what I needed. 10 out of 10. So thank you so much for that. And hopefully you guys will like more of what we do, because we don't even know what we're doing. We just kind of do it on the fly. Hope for the best.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been good, though. It's been fun.
Yeah.
But thanks for that review. If you haven't reviewed yet, drop a 5-star. But let's get into it. Oh, actually, before we get into it, it's not midnight here yet. But by the time when this episode goes live, Cheesy will be 1 year older. Is that how it works?
I mean, I guess technically it's like,
Technically.
whenever like I was born, whatever time that was. But yeah, I'm gonna be 30.
Whoa! You're so
Yeah.
old, man.
Getting up there.
Did,
Yeah,
did you buy a cane yet?
different time? Yeah, I've been looking at them, but some of them are just so technologically advanced that even I don't even understand what these canes do.
But everybody
get a
should
cool-
wish
get a cool
Cheesy a
stick.
happy birthday. But yeah, 30 is so old, man. I can't believe you're 30.
Yeah, but I'm probably still the youngest between the two of us, right?
No comment.
Look, AJ, we are so happy that you are here because one thing that I really like about your personality and just what you bring to the table is just your honesty. And maybe it's like your honesty is maybe not what people want to hear, but you are someone that is going to shut down gaming discourse.
I
right
just
away.
can't.
And
I can't
yeah.
not be honest. I can't.
Wait, I need an example. What's an example? I feel like I put you on the spot here.
I mean, in terms of game, all right. So the thing that I get the most heat for, especially as of late, is my take on old games like.
Okay,
classic
perfect,
games for the
perfect.
most- Yeah, exactly. N64 most famously.
Yeah.
That's the one that people get the most mad at me about.
Here we go.
But my overall take on that is that I feel like there's just like not all old games are bad. But I think that there's certain generations that have a big concentration of games that age like milk. Like the NES, they're figuring it out. Most games on that platform, not worth playing. SNES, they got it together. They know what they're doing. N64, they didn't know what they were doing. New Frontier. Most of those games are bad.
Yeah, I think
GameCube, they figured it out. Like
Yeah.
that sort of thing.
With N64 though, like they probably didn't know. Like the first clue that we should have got that they didn't know what they were doing is the controller.
Yeah. Yep.
How do you hold it? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, our good friend N64 Josh told me how to hold an N64 controller for GoldenEye to play it like a modern shooter. So I made a video about it, and apparently he's wrong because people were not happy with how I was holding a controller in that video.
Well, how are you supposed to hold it for GoldenEye? I don't know this.
Well, he had hold on, let me get my controller real quick.
All right. Well, so for audio listeners, I will do my best to explain which hand is on what. And
Where the thumb placement is.
yeah,
Okay. I don't even know how to show this. So you're supposed to have your.
you're
You're
doing
supposed to have
great.
your thumb here,
Uh-huh.
and then on the D-pad.
Oh, weird.
So a thumb on the D-pad, a thumb on the analogs.
Yeah, and that's how. And then you have to change the control scheme to one certain. I forget what one it is.
And this is why this generation is garbage. And
Well, I'm glad you agree with us. Well, with me anyway. I don't know Cheesy's take on N64, but I think most, if not all, N64 games are just they don't hold up. They're very bad.
honestly, I think even the ones that are good are just good because they're fun, and they're fun largely because they are bad. And it's it's entertaining to deal with the shenanigans, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart. Like a lot of the fun in those is that they kind of are a little bit wonky, and it just brings fun situations when you're playing with a group of friends and or family.
Well, our community might disagree, with how you feel, and it
Bring
was
it
an
on.
interesting,
Fight me all you want. I'm
conversation
born in this.
on nostalgia, just because, yeah, you look back at it and maybe it's not the same as what you once thought it was, but you still had some good times with it. So, what makes it bad? Is that a bad game, or is that just you know, I don't know. Like, is it bad that it didn't age well, or is it
Yes.
bad because yeah?
So for me, it's just when I say that, it's more so like as a product in a vacuum. Like when I say X game, and I think that that's where a lot of the friction comes from, is because people hear this game is bad, and then their personal experience gets melded into that in their brain. But that's not what I'm saying. Like I love plenty of bad stuff. You know, like one of my favorite franchises ever is Pokemon, and I think most of those games are not good.
I'm glad you said, because Cheesy was like, AJ loves Pokemon, and I said something like, if I was an adult, like if I had my memory wiped as an adult, I would not play it as an adult. Because
so here's the thing for me, and this is why I don't fault people for having nostalgia for certain things that are bad. Like Parker has a lot of nostalgia for games that I say are terrible all the time. Like there are aspects to those things where it's like, oh, okay, I can see where they were going with. Where they were going with this thing. I can see how this can be like a good thing that evolves in the future. With Pokemon, it's more so like everything outside of the game is what I like, and it's just the only way to engage with that world, those characters, those designs, that sort of thing, is these games. It's more like I'm just dealing with what I'm given. It's a means to an end.
Yeah.
But for most nostalgia, it's like people are like, but when I was a kid and I was impressionable, and that's when I learned how to play games, and games are fun to me. So of course, the thing that led me to this world that is fun to me is also fun. Yeah, it's like,
yeah. I mean, I did feel bad because I crapped on the Wii a lot in the episode, and I feel bad because, you know, if you're a kid and like Mario Kart Wii was your first ever Mario Kart, like of course you're gonna love that game, even though it's atrocious and horrible.
See, that I don't agree with. I think the Wii was pretty good. I think that there's things on the Wii that's like some of that, what I was talking about with the other generations, where it's like they're figuring stuff out. They were figuring emotion out. There's some games that are like, okay, I get what you're going here. I mean, where you're going here. But others, it's like waggle controls. Not it.
I remember playing Twilight Princess for 50 hours with waggle controls. It's awful. So I played that on the Wii, not on GameCube. We do have a Discord, so if you guys haven't joined the Discord, join the Discord. And we just wanted to put this, well, I guess there's two messages, but the one is from Lego Luigi, and he said, I just realized, congrats to Cheesy for winning your first Splatfest.
Oh, thank you.
Do you play Splatoon, AJ?
Yes. I haven't played for a minute, though. It's been a while. Long time.
Is that
Just
because like
stuff.
Oh, just other stuff?
Just other games coming out. Yeah, like it's a game that like I really want to play. But the only time that I would play it is like on stream, and my stream schedule is usually like right now it's like filled with other stuff. Like I was doing the Nuzlocke, I'm doing Tears of the Kingdom, I do Smash Brothers every week, Pokemon shiny hunts and stuff like that. So it's just like I'll stream enough to have like a set day to be like, this is when we play Splatoon, you know? It's like,
Yeah, Cheesy, congrats, but you had to share the win with me because I'm like 6-1 or something. Like I've only lost one.
6-1.
No, I'm pretty sure I've only lost one.
My record when I stopped was 4-1.
Yeah, that's true.
It would have been 5-1. But
AJ and I were going back and forth for a while, and of course I was not winning. So
you were 0-7, Cheesy. Like that was. That's not going back and forth. That's just losing.
It was the hope, man. It was just the drive, you know.
I was holding out hope. I knew you could do it one day. And
Thanks,
here we
man.
are.
I just love playing like 2 matches. I love playing 2 matches.
You only play a couple, and then you call yourself a winner.
I won 100 times match this past one.
Did you take a screenshot of it?
I did. Yeah, I have it recorded. I'll share it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't believe you. You played 2 matches and you got 100 times.
No, I played more than 2. I got to like defender or whatever. So I played like 5.
Jeez. All right. So the next comment that we have is from Scrubicuous. Again, great entertaining episode. I somewhat agree and see what John Ebo means. Yes, NES and N64 games do not age well compared to today's games, but this doesn't mean they were all bad. It is somewhat unfair to criticize a generation due to its technical limitations. On the contrary, these limitations push the developers to be more creative in their development. Could this be the reason why so many games were so hard?
Are we responding to this or?
Yeah, AJ. Wait,
okay, so I think I agree. I agree with the take that like technical abilities of consoles and stuff like that lead to creative situations. The problem is most developers do not take that as a means to make their game better. That's why it's like the majority, in my opinion, are not good. Like Mario games on the NES, great. Still to this day are good. They still
especially
to this day
Super
play
Mario
like,
Bros. 3, right? Super Mario Bros. 3, perfect game.
Yeah, great game. It's a great game.
Cheesy one to know.
Oh, all right. I'm not trying to cut AJ off. It's just before this podcast was playing World 2, and I was stuck on like level 3.
With the sun? Is that the one with the sun that chases you?
No, I think it's even before that. But I did beat the castle. But there's something about Super Mario Bros. 3 because I know how loved the game is that I'm like, I feel like I'm going through these levels really fast, and I know I'm missing stuff because there's like hidden things that you have to find, and there's a lot of like secret ways around levels, and I just am not getting it yet. And maybe that's kind of the.
So you're just saying
you
suck at it, right?
For sure. I don't even know why I like Mario because I'm not very good at it. But no, I wonder if that is like the wonderment that people went through when they first played Super Mario Bros. 3 is like, this seems like a really easy game, or like the game is going pretty fast. And then they start to discover things because they accidentally bumped into a block, and it's like, oh, I didn't know that was there. Where does this lead to? You know, and so I'm still figuring it out.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think as far as the difficulty, no. The games are not harder because of technical. It's a holdover from arcades. Like these game developers built these games on these machines that are made to siphon money from you. They didn't like reinvent the wheel on how to design their video games in less than one full generation. You know, like they were designing games and also on top of that, these games are smaller in scope, so they want to make you feel like the $100 and today's money that you spent on this video game was worth it, you know, versus like if it was a game with not a whole lot of friction or arbitrary difficulty, as it were. It would take you a day to beat this game. But because they put this arbitrary difficulty and a lot of RNG and like if you can like get through all the jank, might take you like 10-20 hours to beat this game that in reality is 3 hours long.
Yeah, we were talking about Metroid last week and how, I mean, that has not held up well, and it probably is a 3-hour game if you know where you're going, but having no map and just blindly playing, it would take forever.
Yep.
On YouTube, we got Steph Tendo that said, I love Sonic Adventure on the Dreamcast, but man, does that game not hold up well. Oh, AJ, have you played Sonic Adventure?
Yes. Yup.
Your thoughts?
That's a game that I grew up with. I think the game is like neat for the time that it came out, but I think that people give like fans of that game are unrealistic with how people should play that game. I think that there's a lot of people that for the first time ever will play that game and like don't do the like very specific things that you need to do or not need to do to break the game. And they'll see that and be like, well, of course you died there. It's because you turned the camera this way. And like, obviously Sonic's going to die if the camera's not exactly where the game developer wants you to put the camera. Like, that's bad game design. That's bad game design that you, as a fan of the video game and or franchise, have learned to deal with, which is like not a realistic expectation for most people on the planet. Like, that's a decision that you made. It's not the objective correct decision. In fact, I would say it's the opposite of that. I think the onus is on the game developer to make a game that functions well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not well versed in like the Dreamcast or even the 3D era Sonics. I know they're notoriously considered, not the best design. But even the the 2D back on the Genesis, like, I did not enjoy playing the Sonic games back then either. I'm hoping the new one what's it called? Generations? Superstar? Is that what it? Yeah, there was a Generations one.
Yeah, Generations is the 2011 game.
Oh wow, wow. Was that long ago already?
Yeah, that's the one on the 360 PS3, where you're classic Sonic and modern Sonic, and you like play like an amalgamation of like games from the history, and it's like there's 3D versions of, or segments to levels that never had it before, and vice versa for 2D. It's a neat game. It's one of the very few like more on the good side Sonic video games.
Yeah, I think people generally like that one, and they always wanted like the classic Sonic. That classic Sonic has come back, which I think it is kind of. This next one's from DVD Collector 1974. I tried to take notes this time to make this shorter, but I doubt it works. Nostalgia goggles are a real thing for sure, and is a big part of gaming. Movies also. Take, for example, my favorite movie of all time, Alien from 1979. But my go-to comfort movies are Stand By Me and Goonies. They just bring me back to a time I want to live in. Games, same. My favorite game of all time is Wind Waker, but I often go back to the OG Zelda and all of the first 4 Mario games. A lot of games don't hold up, though, even though we want them to because of where we were in life at the time when we played them. And I agree. I was talking to a coworker today. If you don't know, they brought the servers back up for like the 360 Call of Duty games. And I was talking to a coworker today. I'm like, man, I just want to go back to that time where you go to class for like 2 hours and then you spend 10 hours playing Call of Duty, have no other responsibilities. And I got nostalgic for it.
Yeah, I at least with the movie example that he gave, like his favorite movie is Alien. I still think that movie holds up. Like it's kind of I don't know, it has you on the edge of your seat just because, well, you don't really see the alien until like the very end, basically, and it's a lot of practical effects that they get you with, and like Ridley Scott didn't even like tell the actors what was going to happen with the chest bursting scene. So I know that's not video games. I just like to talk about movies sometimes.
What's your favorite movie, AJ?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay.
I can't even think of a movie that I've seen. I mean, the only movie that I've seen multiple times in recent memory is literally Detective Pikachu, and it's because everybody on the planet is like, you're the Pokemon guy. I gotta go take you to see the Pokemon movie. And I'm like, man, I've seen this movie 3 times already. It's like, I don't care. You haven't seen it with me. So I ended up seeing that movie like 8 times in total.
I just rewatched it, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's a cool movie. As a Pokemon fan, there's a lot of Pokemon reference. It's cool in the way that the Mario movie is cool. Like it's definitely not like a cinematic like storytelling masterpiece or anything like that. But it's very good at being steeped in the world that it is trying to tell a story within, which is all I wanted from it, personally.
Are you excited for Detective Pikachu Returns?
What, the video game?
Yeah.
I'll play it.
Are you? Well, more importantly, are you excited for Pokemon Sleep?
Of course. I've waited all my life to sleep. Never been able to do that before.
I ordered that stupid puck.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I've been
Pokemon-
seeing the discourse about that, man. I've been seeing the discourse. I saw a tweet. I don't want to go into who tweeted it because I don't want to call them out or anything like that. But they were talking about. They were like, you would think that with how like ubiquitous the Pokeball is in the Pokemon world, that you would have Pokeballs that can do more than just one thing. And it's like, but Pokeballs don't do more than one thing. And you know how many of those that you buy?
True.
Buy hundreds of those.
Yeah.
So,
You get like an
bad
extra.
example.
You get like an extra 10 for buying 100, right? You know.
Yeah. Well, you get one. Well, yeah, you get one for every 10 Premier Ball.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They're disposable.
Yeah, so when they come out with the 10th Pokeball Plus or whatever it's called, by the time that they do that, we'll get a Premier Ball bundled with it.
It'd be like Pokemon Plus or Pokemon Go Plus multiple.
Well, it's already
Yeah, Pokeball Multiply Plus.
Yeah.
plus to the 10th power.
And then after that, they'll start going into Great Ball, and then they'll do 10 more of those.
I was just thinking if they're like Pokemon Company is like trying to get us to brush our teeth, they're trying to get us to sleep, they're trying to get us to walk. Can they just do like Pokemon math? Because I think I might really benefit.
That's
from
literally every game that has ever existed. All of the Pokemon games are literally Pokemon math. All of
that.
them.
Oh, well, I just have not paid close enough attention, I guess. I just want to be buddies with my Pokemon. Yeah.
There's a lot of 2 + 2, 2 × 2, 4 times
Yeah,
1.
four times weakness and
Yeah, 4 divided by 2. You know, there's a lot of that.
This explains why I'm not very good at it. The name's Jer said, I definitely find that there's often really good reasons why we love older games. Obviously, they were great or they wouldn't be beloved, but that doesn't always mean the experience still holds up today, and that's where our nostalgia goggles can make us blind to valid criticisms. Hot take, even after playing Mario 64 on the Switch, I don't find the camera to be that unbearable. Maybe it's because I love Shadow of the Colossus, and its camera is notoriously pretty bad. Your take on Mario 64?
Yeah. Bad game. All right, it's an okay game, but it is an N64 game at the end of the day. I think the camera is bad. And I think that anytime that there's somebody that I hear say the camera's not that bad, it's somebody that loves the game and wants to continue to love the game, which is fair.
Yeah.
But that's different from like an objective take on a thing in a vacuum as somebody that isn't trying to like be swayed one way or another. The camera's not good. Which again is fair. You could love the game. That's fine.
Yeah, I think we were talking about that last week with Mario Sunshine, because that's how I feel. Is like I can admit that there are some things that need to be fixed with Mario Sunshine, but I don't know. I still really want to love it, you know, and just like the concept of it and
Totally fair.
The weird plot that it is, and yeah.
And I think that there's also this feeling that like you can't love bad stuff. You can love bad stuff. People love bad stuff.
True.
And like acknowledging that something is flawed does not like make you stupid for loving it. You know, like
Yeah.
if the game developers didn't acknowledge that these games are flawed, we wouldn't be where we are now. And if they weren't flawed, we would like see more situations where like Celeste is just literally a SNES game, but with more technical bells and whistles. You know, like that's kind of why like I think that it's easy to see that there's certain generations that's like, okay, this was rock solid. They had their tech figured out and developers designed around what their tech ceiling was. Rather than like the best example I could think of is like something like Wind Waker, right? When that came out on the GameCube, and then you compare that to like Grand Theft Auto at the time. Grand Theft Auto San Andreas or whatever. Back then, people were like, man, this game looks so real and Wind Waker looks terrible or whatever, right? Compare those games now, you know? I think that it is always smarter to aim for what your hardware can handle and look good forever than to try to quote unquote push what your hardware could do, because it inexorably ages the thing that it's like putting a top 10 song in your movie. Like it's going to date your movie. It's going to be like, oh, this obviously came out in 2005 because that's when it was #1 on the charts. That's what this does here. When you're like, all right, the best Unreal Engine graphics and looks like real life, and then next generation, everybody's going to be like, this game looks terrible.
So, okay, do you think that the Switch is going to hold up, or do you think people are going to?
I think certain games will, yeah.
Oh, okay, and the hardware.
What do you mean?
I guess the way that people are playing in the controller and like are they going to be fine with adjusting to that?
Yeah. Yes. I think that there's definitely games that are like an exception to that because again, there are those games on Switch that are like The Witcher or whatever, right? Like there's games that are trying to punch above their weight in terms of like technical ability. But games like Breath of the Wild, games like Splatoon, games like that are designed to be like, okay, this is what this hardware is able to do and do well, will hold up.
Until you try to remember what the jump button is in Breath of the Wild.
I mean, that's just
Wild.
That's just true. That's just true in a lot of different games.
Yeah.
All right. So Tyler Keeble says, didn't grow up playing GoldenEye, didn't play it for the first time until I was an adult, and I love that game, so I can't really blame nostalgia. Do I recognize that game as janky? Yes, but there are aspects to the game that I love that make me not only look past the jank, but make it one of my favorite first-person shooter games of all time. The non-linear mission design, specifically on higher difficulties, the open level design, strafing makes movement very fun. Strafe FPS are my favorite. Getting hits on enemies has weightiness to make each shot super satisfying, especially when you lean around the corner or line up a tricky distance shot. I think a lot of these design choices are severely lacking in most FPS games nowadays, making GoldenEye a go-to game I revisit frequently, but just because it's dated, all those aspects tend to get completely overlooked.
So I will say AJ is the first person that comes to mind for me when it comes to GoldenEye and like how everybody was wanting it to return to Switch or be on the Nintendo Online service, because you had some choice words.
The game is not good. It is a bad game. It's funny because it's like my brother is very similar and that and how he feels about GoldenEye. Like it's one of the games that he loves the most and stuff. When the game came out again. Matter of fact, even before that, before it came to the Switch Online service, he bought it. He bought the GameCube. He bought another copy of GoldenEye. He's like, game's rough. Because it just wasn't, it was trying to be something that it wasn't ready to be, like the type of shooter that it wanted to be, as evidenced by the fact that you can literally try to make a janky approximation of dual stick shooters by having two controllers plugged in and all that. Like it was just out of its depth, man.
Did you play it on Xbox by chance?
Yeah. Yes.
And I mean, I do think it's more playable on Xbox because they updated the controls to be a modern shooter. But
the game still runs terribly. And like the mechanics are still like, it's an old game, man. We got better. Got better at making these.
We got better because that game got put out, right? So like there was a blueprint to say, oh well, maybe this thing didn't work, but we could try to develop our next game.
But just because that's the case doesn't make the older thing better for it. It took us carrier pigeons to get to the cell phone and then later the internet, right? I don't think anybody in here is going to be like, yeah, carrier pigeon, that's a great form of communication.
I bet you there's someone out there.
Yeah, people
it's not connected to the internet, it can't be traced. So yeah, it's carrier pigeons are the way to go.
It can definitely be traced. Droppings,
Good point. Yeah.
But yeah.
I think it's interesting to look at even remakes because like take Ocarina of Time, for example, on the N64.
Yeah.
People love that game, but the better version of it is on the 3DS. So does that original version of it make it a bad game, and now that it's remade, it's a good game, or is it still
No.
Okay?
but the remake is better for sure. But I think that
Right.
there's still things in the remake that is not great game design, even before today. But like just stuff like Breath of the Wild makes super apparent, and Tears of the Kingdom, but semi to a lesser extent. There's just arbitrary walls in Ocarina of Time that like is the biggest thing that sticks out for me as like why I don't think that game is as good as people give it credit for. The sort of thing where it's like, oh, okay, well, I got to go get this MacGuffin, and I know I have to go get this MacGuffin, but I don't know that I need to talk to this specific guy. So I'm lost until I realize I got to talk to the specific guy. That's terrible game design.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in Breath of the Wild, not only, and to a lesser extent Tears of the Kingdom, because I think there's more moments in Tears of the Kingdom where they make you talk to a person to do a thing. In Breath of the Wild, they reward you for knowing, like, oh, you got to go get the thing. Oh, you knew you were going to get the thing? You must remember that. You didn't lose your memory, dude. You knew you were supposed to light that torch. You know, like, that is good. You want to make your player feel good that they know what to do, not punish them for it, you know? Not make them run up against a wall.
Yeah, Cheesy, how did it feel getting all the way to the Wind Temple?
Okay.
Yeah. Yup.
Yeah. I don't know, because even AJ talked about this on his podcast too. It annoyed me. I feel like I did all the right things to get up to the Wind Temple, and then they were like, oh, you need specific clothing. So I was like, okay, so I'll go back down, I'll get the clothing, I'll go back up again, and then while I'm there, I'm trying to figure out this puzzle that's taken me about maybe 2 to 3 hours, because I'm like, what is the thing that I am missing? I don't understand it. So then eventually I looked it up, and they're like, oh, you need to have your companion. And I'm like, I guess if I read, maybe I would have figured that out on my own. But like the rest of the game, like what you and AJ or you and Parker were talking about, is like, that's how the rest of the game is that you can kind of do it by your own design and not rely on some other mechanic that you need to complete the not dungeon. What are they called in this game?
Temples.
They're called temples.
Temples.
But,
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
People will know what you're talking about.
Can you?
Yeah.
No spoil. I mean, I beat the game, but can you beat it without doing the temples?
I don't know. Haven't tried.
Because in Breath of the Wild, you didn't have to do the divine beast.
Yeah, you
just go straight to the castle.
But I would assume not. Just how spoilers, I guess, how Ganondorf works and like what happens when you go to the castle. I don't think you can do it without. You might not have to do all the temples, maybe ? But I kind of doubt that too, because like I don't know. Well, TBD until I actually beat the game, because then I can like, oh, that's where Ganondorf is, and maybe you can go there.
I mean, there's just
but
there's
it
just
doesn't feel like it.
There's just things that I don't want to spoil anything, but there's things that I'm like, there's no way you could avoid doing certain.
Yeah.
So that's one I would say complaint I have about Tears of the Kingdom. It feels like you can't.
Backtracked.
Yeah. And you have to see the same cutscene 4 times. I don't like that.
Yeah.
That is see, and this is the thing though. This is the thing, and this circles back to what we're talking about here with like fan nostalgia and all that stuff. They kowtowed. Nintendo said, "Oh, okay, you guys want more linear story, and you want to feel more like the games where you had the dungeons and stuff like that." Those things are counterintuitive to the way that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, to a lesser extent, are designed. They're designed around freedom. Those mechanics are the antithesis of that. Like, so, yeah. You know, like, I think Tears of the Kingdom, like, in a lot of ways is the better game. But Breath of the Wild, I mean, but it just went backwards from Breath of the Wild in what makes Breath of the Wild so good, in my opinion. And it is the fact that it, like, rethinks the stuff that people are, like, so, like, set in their ways into with video games. Like, you can give Breath of the Wild to, like, just somebody that's, like, a marginally, like, creative person. That's like even watched one cartoon before, and they can figure it out, you know, where it's like, okay, I got to go through this cold area. Obviously, Link is cold, I see these hot peppers. I bet if I cook them, he'll be hot. You know.
Yeah.
I gotta blow this thing. I have this leaf. Maybe if I swing this leaf, okay. Oh, it's storming outside, and I keep getting struck by electricity. Maybe if I get rid of my metal stuff, it'll stop striking. You know, there's like a lot of stuff that has like a connection point that you don't need to be told in the game. You could just use logic, and whether that logic is cartoon logic, real world logic, whatever it is, you don't need to be directly told this is how you do the thing. But in the older Zelda games, and to a certain extent, Tears of the Kingdom, you need to be directly told. Otherwise, you would like never like stumble upon half of this stuff.
So
Yeah,
so
I
a lot
guess-
of the discourse going around about Zelda right now is, I forget who said it. Maybe a composer said that there might not be traditional Zeldas moving forward.
Oh, Aonuma said that.
Oh, Anuma said that. So how do you like that
Good.
decision? Yeah.
Yes, get rid of them. Like the thing about it is, I don't even want them to like necessarily be like, okay, now Breath of the Wild, let's just keep making that, because that's what's bad about traditional Zeldas, is because rather than every time you make the video game saying, okay, how do we make the best possible game within this world, in this franchise, with these characters, with these, you know, like the law of the land, the designs, that sort of stuff. How do we make the best game possible? Instead of doing that, they're like, okay, how do we make the best version of the thing that we did last time? And that just becomes a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, and it just becomes worse as a result, in my opinion.
Do you think we're getting a trilogy?
I don't know. I haven't beat the game yet, so I can't say. I think we could,
Yeah.
but also I wouldn't be surprised if they just like full pivoted in terms of like where on the timeline and what the story is and like all that stuff, and just kept the like mechanics and design philosophy in the same way that they did do that from Ocarina of Time to Wind Waker to Twilight Princess to Sky, you know, like that sort of stuff.
Do you think Nintendo knows the Zelda timeline?
No, I think that Nintendo made that up to appease people, because Nintendo is like gameplay first in every situation, every single one.
Yep.
That's the story in Zelda exists because it would feel weird if it didn't. Like theming wise, like if Zelda's story was like as paper thin as Mario's story, it wouldn't. It just would be a disconnect with the theming of that world. I don't think they care as much about the plot as the people that play Zelda do.
Which in
I don't
your
care
case
about the
is-
plot.
We know, Johnny. We know you don't care. But what you're saying, AJ, is that that's a good thing. Like they
Yes.
shouldn't worry too much about
Yeah.
the plot or the storyline or.
So I depending sometimes, like for Tears of the Kingdom specifically, I think I care about the plot. But I think that the priority should always be gameplay. We are playing a video game.
Yeah.
Especially and this is another take that me and Parker talk about a lot. Especially since I think stories in games are not good.
Yes.
They're not good.
Yes.
Even the ones that are considered to be good are not good by virtue of the fact that they're not designed to fit the medium that they're taking place in. They're just an approximation of how stories are told elsewhere. It's just like, oh, the way that we're telling stories is with cutscenes, which is just like, okay, let's just plop film within this other medium. Like,
I completely agree.
If a movie just put up a page of a book on the screen and that's part of how they told the story, we would think it was terrible. But that's what they do in video games. They're like, okay, let's take this other medium and just place it as a crutch to tell the story. They need to find a way to use interactivity, because that's what makes a game, and have that tell the story, rather than trying to piece together all these different like pieces of film inside of this other medium.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I feel very validated right now.
Yeah, you don't know what kind of damage you have done to Johnny Bo's ego. Like we're gonna hear about this for a month now.
Remember when AJ said that stories and games are bad?
No, pretty much everything that you said is what he has said. Was like our first episode, I think.
Okay.
Or second episode. I
Yeah,
forget. But anyway,
something.
That's amazing. Because like I feel like there are definitely, and this is kind of backtracking a little bit to a previous episode, but like I feel like there are some stories that, you feel impacted by.
Yeah.
But like there's I guess I agree with you guys is that like they're not the greatest story that's being told in front of our eyes, because part of the storytelling is you as the player driving the narrative of
Right.
what it is that you're supposed to do.
And like that's intended passively, but the game is not designed for that. And
Right.
also, I think a big part of why a lot of gamers feel like, oh man, one of the greatest stories I ever experienced is The Last of Us, right? Is because, and not to specifically put down The Last of Us, again, I feel this way about 99.9% of stories in video games. It's because that's what gamers are more likely to engage with. So they haven't experienced The Road, like they haven't experienced these other stories in film and literature and like plays and stuff like that inspired this one. So it's like, oh man, nothing ever made me feel this way. And it's like, yeah, it's because you spent your whole life playing video games and doing very little else, which is fine. But I think that's different from like you being able to have an objective take on what is like the pinnacle of storytelling or whatever, right? Like obviously there are like there's levels to like how good a story is in like the world of video games, but the peak of video game storytelling has not reached even the average story in film and literature, in my opinion.
And will it?
Once game designers start to tell stories using what makes video games unique, yes. I think it has the potential to be the best storytelling medium. But no game designer is taking advantage of that yet. And that's fair. It's a young medium, like even the like approximation of movie storytelling is relatively new. Like we didn't start getting these like, man, this game is art takes until games like the Last of Us or the Walking Dead Telltale games or whatever, right? So it might take us a while before we get to that point where the first game that actually truly uses the interactivity of video games and the like individuality of like that experience of playing through a game to its advantage. And I know that people come up with examples of like, but what about the Metal Gear game on the GameCube when it looks at your memory card? And what about Until Dawn where like if you don't move your controller, then the monster won't catch you, like that type of stuff. It's like those are like baby steps towards getting to the right answer. They're not the right answer. You're looking in the right direction. You're not even heading there yet. You happened upon it when you're looking around. You saw it. They didn't start walking forward yet. And once games are designed with interactivity in mind, in terms of the narrative, that is when I think that the narrative will become not just good, but some of the best storytelling people have ever experienced. And I'm talking about like people that do engage in multiple mediums.
Yeah,
personally.
no, that makes sense. Because you're always inspired by something else and just kind of going down the rabbit hole of, like I was inspired by this, which that person was inspired by that, and that's how they created. Yeah, so I understand that. Jake Taylor on Spotify said, while I do have a lot of nostalgia for N64 games, I rarely find myself replaying through any of them more than 10 to 30 minutes. The one N64 game I do replay often to completion is Paper Mario 64.
I think Paper Mario 64 is one of the exceptions because it's not a game that tried to do something that they were out of their depth for. Like, you could have made a technical, like a technically like scaled down version of that on the SNES too.
Yeah, I think like the 2D. The 2D games on N64 seem to work better because they don't have, or they hold up more because they don't have.
Because they're not trying to learn how to use a whole new axis.
Yeah, exactly.
But you did laugh when I said that they, only play them for 10 to 30 minutes. Is that because...
Felt. Because you're thinking in your head, man, this game is phenomenal. This is the best game I ever played. I remember when I was an 8-year-old, man, I'd stay up for hours playing friggin' Mario 64, Super
Mhm.
Smash Brothers 64, Mario Kart. You know, like, but as an adult or even just an older person, you know, being removed from it, you see that it's like a lot of that is attached to not the game itself, but the time and place that you're in. Like
Yeah.
for better or for worse. I mean, I don't know if you know this yet, listener, but kids are dumb. So it's easy for you as a kid to be like, man, this is the best thing I ever experienced. Because you only experience like 12 things in your life. So like it's not that hard for it to be one of the best things that you ever experienced.
I never thought of it from that point of view, but it makes sense because, like, you know, you'll have kids that are, I don't know, they're like 6 to 8, and they have like their favorite movie that they're playing over and over and over
Mhm.
again. And that's just because that's the thing that they fell in love with,
Yeah.
and they haven't seen other movies.
Right. Which in that moment is valid. You know, like it's
Sure.
the best thing I ever saw. That's pretty dope.
Yeah.
But that's not something that like it should be the gauge for the rest of your life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
We got John
Alright.
from the future. He's back. Welcome back, John. Or me. I
And
do
we
think
don't know
that,
if it's actually Johnny that is like contacting
just a
himself from
different
the
John.
future, or yeah, we haven't figured it out yet. If it's
Yeah.
like a Terminator situation.
we'll find out soon. I do think that having nostalgia for games makes you like it, but the reverse can also be true. Remembering a game as amazing when you were a kid can let you down when you retry it and discover it's bad. Yeah, I mean, I feel this when I went back and played Super Mario Sunshine.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I loved this game as a kid, and then I go back and play it. I'm like, oh man, this this is not a fun game, not a fun experience.
Could have been better. Yeah. As a big Smash fan that you are, AJ, and we haven't really talked about that much, but you go into like competitive tournaments, and when Smash 64 comes to the online service, are you gonna play it for very long, or is it just like, yeah, I'll play it and
I don't know.
then just drop
So
it?
there's like content ideas that I do have around that. So like I'll probably play it in like a Mimi kind of way, you know, like spin a wheel challenge, kind of like, all right, win a 2 out of 3 in Smash 64. That sort of situation. But I can't imagine I'll be playing it for any real like serious amount of time outside of those like fun goofy moments. I play like literally a few days ago. I was playing Melee. That game controls terribly. um, Granted, I didn't like hack it and take it apart and do all the stuff that the Melee competitive scene does. So maybe it feels a little better if you do all that. But yeah, I have a feeling that Smash 64 will be an even worse version of that because there are mechanics that just straight up don't exist in that game yet. That are like universal now.
Man, I'm not ready for that discourse
You
because
can't even
know-
air dodge in that game. That's crazy.
I don't think it's
mean,
going to
you
be
just-
that big of a. Like, I don't think Smash 64 is that revered. Now, if it was Melee that was coming, and everybody, said this is actually trash, which I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying if it were to
I'll
come,
say that. But also I don't think that would be. It's not going to be a situation where it's like GoldenEye, right? Where people are like before it comes to to NSO, people are like, this is my favorite game. I haven't played it in 24 years, but it's my favorite game. People that love Melee are still playing it. You know, like there's still thousands of people a year that enter competitive Melee tournaments. Like it's still like if you want to delve into the emulation world, it's still played heavily on things like Slippy and stuff like that. These people play this game. They're playing a different version of the game that's been modified to hell. But you're not going to change how they feel about it. You might change how like the more casual person that hasn't played Melee in 20 years feels about it. But not the scene.
And the last comment that we have is Mark Barnes says the Metal Gear Solid series, glad it's coming to Switch.
I think
that was
people
just
are.
a statement.
I think people are gonna be. they're not gonna. They're remembering those games incorrectly.
Yo, but Phantom Pain, that game is sick. That game, really good.
Was that the
Story,
game
don't-
though? Wasn't that the demo? Was Phantom Pain the demo?
No, that's Ground Zero.
Oh,
I
okay,
think it's
okay.
called. But that game also sick. Mechanically, people complain about the story. I don't give an F about the story. But the
That's all those
gameplay
games
loop,
are.
yeah, no, the gameplay loop and Phantom Pain specifically, like the gameplay of the other Metal Gear game. I never played Peace Walker. I hear that's like a precursor to that, the gameplay of Phantom Pain. But like that specific, like I am not a Metal Gear fan at all. But I tried that game when Phantom Pain came out, and I've played like other Metal Gear games, and that's why I'm not a Metal Gear fan at all, because I think their gameplay is bad. But the gameplay loop of Phantom Pain is a huge W. Like I don't care about the first collection. If the second, like whenever the second collection comes out, I am buying and playing through all of those games, all of them, because it's apparently supposed to be Peace Walker, Phantom Pain, and Ground Zero.
Phantom Pain is what, the 5, right? That's 5.
Yeah, yep.
Peace Walker's
Well, Ground
4.
Zero is like, those are both technically 5. Peace Walker is like between those which even like 5 is like, it like takes place before 3 or something. Like I don't know, man. I'm not a Metal Gear fan, but but they're not sequential in that regard. But yeah, the gameplay loop is dope.
I remember getting was it Twin Snakes on 3DS?
The game, yeah.
And I played it, and there was like an hour of a cutscene. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't
I
need
skip
this.
all of that. I skip all of that. I don't care. But and I like, not in general. Like in most games that I play, if I want to play it, I'm gonna watch the story. But like, because I mostly played Phantom Pain and Ground Zero because I heard good things about the gameplay. And I heard people being like, just Metal Gear in general is like super convoluted and all this stuff. And I'm not playing all these games to understand this plot. If I'm not going to understand it anyway, I'm not wasting my time watching it. But it is a fun game. I'll say that.
Cheesy,
Nostalgia-
you've never played Metal Gear, right?
I've played the original that was on the NES, and I don't think I understood what I was doing. Yeah, it was pretty confusing, and I can't remember even how far I got, but I could easily just, because I own that copy, and I could hook up my NES and try to go back to it, but I don't know. I think that I would enjoy them though, because I like stealth, and I know that that's some people don't enjoy that, but I like being all sneaky and like how do you approach something
I think
and
stealth
without
is fun if it's done well.
yeah. There's a really fun like stealth part in Octo expansion. They like strip you of all your gear. And
Yeah.
you just gotta swim
Octo
around
expansion
and
is dope.
oh yeah, it's so good.
Mm.
I could talk about that series forever, and that's one of those with like, is there really a story? There's some lore, and the developers know that,
Yeah.
but that's not like their main focus. They
Right.
they
What's
make
the
game
lore behind
first.
the 8 balls? Why am I shooting 8 balls?
It's leftovers from the apocalypse.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. That makes
That's
sense.
also why you like come in on like espresso machines, because like they're scavengers. They found that and they're like, yo, we could make something useful out of this.
Mm-hmm. And also just octos and 8 balls. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff in Splatoon that I still don't really understand, but I love that I don't understand it for that reason, because it's just one of the weirdest Nintendo IPs. That
Which
and
is
Pikmin.
saying something.
Yeah. Are you picking up Pikmin 4?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Did you go back and play Pikmin 1 and 2?
No. So when they revealed that, I was like, man, I really like Pikmin 3, and I think I'm gonna like Pikmin. This was before I played the demo, which that was pretty good for Pikmin 4. I was like, I think I might like this, and then my chat, knowing me and knowing how I feel about retro gaming, are like, nah, you might not like that game. I don't know. There might be some old game design holdovers in that, and I'm like curious to try it, but I just think the timing's off. Like I don't want to like stop myself from playing Pikmin 4 to play Pikmin 1 and 2 before Pikmin 4 comes out. I'm not doing that. So maybe I'll go back later. Who knows? But
That's how I feel with Super Princess Peach, because I just want to play it to say that I've experienced it, and I know that it's not a great game, but to play that
I
before
think
the
that
new
game is like it's like fine, but it is problematic.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm hoping that the new Peach game isn't as
Will be less
problematic. Hopefully, when did that one come out? Like over 10 years ago. They should have learned.
Yeah, the DS game. Yeah.
But that is all we got for today. We're at an hour. We're at an hour. We did good.
Nice.
I think you go kind of just back and forth on nostalgia because it's something that you really want to love, but then you go back and you're like, oh, maybe this wasn't as good as I once wanted it to be or what I once knew it to be. And so even like when people are talking about their favorite games and how games have held up or haven't held up, it's kind of just, it's not a fact, that it's a bad game because it's subjective.
Nah, man.
It's a fact.
I think to a certain extent, yeah. I think because when a lot of people are talking about like, oh, this game aged poorly, it's a lot of times a technical thing. And it's like this game literally does not run well. Like, and I think that like looking at like the Pokemon discourse, right? When people are like, oh, this game, like the frame drops and all this stuff, right? When it's a 2023 game, it's a frame drop. But when it's an N64 game, it's endearing. It's slow down. Like you don't hear the frame drop verbiage then, right? It's because people give it excuses and stuff like that and blah blah blah. I think that you should be able to judge a product as if it's a product without the disclaimer of like, oh well, it's older. Yeah. It just means it's not that great of a product.
See, this is the reason that we have this podcast is just for conversations like that, to try to like change each other's mind or just listen to what the other one has to say. So I'm really grateful that you came on and all the honest takes that you have. Where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Threads, kinda at A McCrae Jr.
Threads is dead. Don't even promote Threads anymore.
Who knows, man? You can find all that stuff on youtube.com/watchredirect. That links to all this stuff. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, usually 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time.
And I'll put all your links in the show notes, so everybody check that out. And we don't have a quote for today. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything.
Your nostalgia's dumb. Throw it in the garbage. That's the quote.
There you go. Bye, AJ.